Vice President Joe Biden and congressional leaders just got out of a bipartisan meeting on the budget deficit. We're going to have a debate of our own, though, right here on Street Smart. Jason Schenker is the president of Prestige Economics and a former economist at Wachovia Bank, and Bloomberg ranks him among the most accurate economists for his payroll forecasts. Also with us, Douglas Holtz-Eakin, president of American Action Forum. That's a center-right think tank. He's the former director of the Congressional Budget Office and former chief economist at the Council of Economic Advisors, both under President George W. Bush. Gentlemen, great to have you here on Street Smart. Jason, I want to kick it off with you. We're trying to figure out what to do with this budget, what to do with the deficit. Is it the right time to be doing this in terms of where we are in the economy, in your view?
Well, right now, if we want to look at paring back any kind of fiscal stimulus, if our goal is to create jobs, this might not be the right time. But the truth is, at some point, if we spend money now, we have to pay for it later. All
right, but maybe not do it right now here. Doug, what do you think? Is it time to just get our fiscal house in order?
Absolutely. We've been growing for 6 quarters. We're growing unacceptably slowly. It's time to shift from so-called stimulus to pro-growth policies. And the number one pro-growth policy is to control spending, take off the table the threat of higher interest rates or higher taxes or both. And this is actually a game plan that's been followed around the globe very successfully. If you've got a budget problem and you need to grow, the recipe is cut spending, keep taxes low. It's been done in hundreds of places.
All right. So, Doug, then how aggressive do you think we can be with spending at this point?
I think you can be fairly aggressive with the discretionary accounts. That's the only way you can move things quickly. But everyone knows that ultimately you have to get serious on entitlements. And the great missing leadership in this debate has been the president, who has put out 3 budgets that don't add up and got recommendations from a fiscal commission that said it's a moment of truth. We must take on the entitlement spending. And he took a pass in the budget.
You know, Jason, I got to say, I feel like we are doing an awful lot of talk about, yep, we got to deal with the entitlement spending. Yes, we got to do something. And yet I'm not so sure that we're going to get anything done. I mean, don't we have to do something already with these programs?
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, entitlements are not part of the budget. They're off balance sheet, just like they are with pensions at most companies. You don't really think about what's going on there. It's a major threat to the U.S. economy, and it will change. It has to change, and that's one key thing. In terms of the budget, which is a very different question from entitlements, you know, if we want to pare back spending, that's fine, but there will be repercussions. And the other thing is, in terms of what we target, one of my colleagues asked me earlier today, well, you know, gee, we have all these subsidies for all these different things. Why don't we cut them? And I said, look, if you were getting a subsidy for anything, for every dollar you got of that subsidy, how much would you donate to political parties or to lobbyists to make sure you get that dollar? And the answer is really 99 cents. So it is very difficult to get anything that is subsidized, any kind of earmark money, to get that out of the budget. It's very tough. The best things you can hope to get are the things that the GAO pointed out in their recent report, where there's overlap. There's 33 areas. It's about $200 billion in opportunity. It's going to take years to actually get that money, but I could see the president saying, well, look, we've done this independent study. We're going to try to focus on capturing this savings. This is what my company does, is to identify the overlap and to try to find where you can capture. But I'll tell you, it's going to take years to get the money in these agencies.
I mean,
Carol, I just got to say one thing. I mean, that is just absolutely wrong. Entitlements are on the budget. Medicare is 75% subsidized by general revenue. Social Security is running a cash deficit right now. Medicaid is an enormous federal expenditure. The new Affordable Care Act will be direct subsidies to insurance. It's going to be totaling $80 billion a year. That is our budget problem. It is not off budget. It is exactly what they need to grapple with. The kinds of things in the GAO study are peanuts and do not merit the kind of time they get. These are real problems, and the real choices are either take them on or bequeath to our kids an economy that is broken and a standard of living that is below what we have. That is the absolute choices we have, and we should start now.
You know, Jason, I'm having a hard time disagreeing with Doug here, because it is what's eating up taxpayer money. It's what's increasing these deficits. I mean, what do you say?
Well, there are two things. One is the way we fund entitlements, the way we think about that, that is all off of what we typically are talking about when we're talking about the federal government's budget.
That's just wrong. That is absolutely, you cannot say that to the American people. That is wrong. If you look at the budget, taxes and spending, the payroll taxes that fund entitlements are on the revenue side, the spending that goes out in Medicare and Medicaid, Affordable Care Act is on the outlay side. It is in the budget.
The way the budget is discussed and the way it's broken out, this is discussed separately. But no, I agree that one thing I will agree with Doug is that entitlements do need to be addressed, looking at the ages of when people get things, looking at the level of benefits, looking at these things can have huge opportunities, but it requires tremendous political will. And you have to go into these parts of the budget that are typically going to be a very separate discussion from the types of expenditures that are made for operations of the government.
And Doug, I think that is a good point. I mean, I keep hearing from tons and tons of guests, there is no political will to make any changes. Everybody's worried about re-elected. I mean, unless we get rid of lobbyists completely, how are we going to get anything really fixed? You laugh, but I mean, honestly, I don't feel like I necessarily have a voice in government. So how do we get this fixed? Because we just seem to be...
So I'm very sympathetic to that. I think there are two elements that are absolutely essential. Number one is presidential leadership. Big problems do not get solved without presidential leadership. That has been the history of this country. And the second is to present to the American people realistic choices. If you say the choices are, hey, continue as we are, or would you like to give up your Social Security, they say, no, I don't really want to. If you give them a realistic choice, which is, do you want to leave to your children a broken economy, or would you be willing to pare back future Social Security spending? They'll make good choices.
Hey,
that's something I actually would disagree with Doug on, is that we're not leaving this problem to our children. It's something that we are going to have to deal with. The problem is so large on the entitlement side that used to be really a wishful admonishment to say that this is something we're bequeathing to our children. It's going to be their problem. It's not going to be their problem. It will be our problem. And it is something, if we don't address, it will come home to roost in the majority of the lifetimes that people live today.
So, guys, if you could have your way, I've got maybe about a minute or so left here. I mean, Jason, you take it first. What needs to be done in your view? And be specific. I'm tired of generalizations and hearing this when we're dealing with the deficit and the budget. Give me, Jason, something specific that I can kind of chew on here.
Well, I think we should focus for the operational side of the government budget. We should focus on these areas where there's overlap, and we should target to try to capture savings there.
Okay.
For the entitlements, should we make changes there? We're going to have to. Whether it happens now or later, it's another question.
I want to be fair, Doug, but I only got 10 seconds for you. Be specific for me.
Non-defense spending back to 2008 levels. Defense spending, get rid of the legacy weapon systems we don't need. Fix Social Security by changing the benefit formula and send a signal to capital markets we're going in a new direction.
I love specificity. All right, guys, Jason and Doug, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.